Good evening and welcome to the YL This is Melanie, AG4YL, Net Control for this evening's net. We meet every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the ALARA Conference node, so be sure to invite all YLs you know to join us. We ask that only YLs or licensed AM Lady Ham radio operators check in and participate. The purpose of this net is to encourage you to become and stay active with amateur radio, help each other improve our operating knowledge and skills, and have fun. For more ham fun between weekly nets, check out the Wild UpNet Facebook group. During the net, be sure to join us in the NFARL Do-Drop-In chat room by opening any web browser and going to nfarl.doodropin.org. Just put in your name --call sign in the box and then click Login. YLs who would like to check in, please give us your call sign, name, and current location. Don't forget there is a 3 to 4 second delay when transmitting through Echolink and the various connected repeaters. With the addition of all the repeaters that are connected in, please allow time for those repeaters to reset. Just count to 5 and we should be good to go. So, this is Melanie, AG4YL. We will now begin taking check-ins. Please call now.
KC9ZHV, all New York 1.
KC8UFV, Chrissy, Toledo, Ohio.
AE7MD, Margaret, Battleground, Washington.
AC4YL, Georgia, Catherine. Good evening, everybody. I'm checking in under KE7FSD. This is Judy, KE7IXI, Arizona.
KC1EEO, Brenda, New Haven, Connecticut.
Okay, great start so far to our group. I'd like to welcome Lauren, KC9ZHB from Illinois, Chrissy, KCAUFB from Ohio, Margaret, AE7MB from Washington, Catherine, AC4YL from Georgia, Judy, KE7IXI from Arizona, and Brenda, KC1EEO from Connecticut. Any more YLs that would like to check into the net this evening, please call now.
KM4AAQ, Yolanda in Tequila, Georgia.
Okay. Linda, I saw you key up a couple times there in the first round of check-ins and then again there in the second. I don't know if you're having a little bit of mic trouble or if the Echolink gremlins are working working against you this evening. But I do see you and I do have you in the log. That's Linda, KC8PKY from Knox, Indiana. Yolanda, KM4AAQ out of Georgia, and Susie, NHCGM, I see you in there. So if you can transmit, please feel free to join in after I learn to use my words. And good to see all of you in here today. I also see hi Nisi, I see KA1ULN Nisi from Massachusetts has joined us in the net this evening. Good evening to you as well. And always good to see all of you in the net when we can and when you can stop by and see us. We'll try to check in later on and get any latecomers or people that will be joining us after they get done doing the things that they do on a Thursday evening, because after all, this net is not a do-all end-all. A lot of you have some other commitments and things that you like to do. And I'm going to need to make sure I recharge my phone. There we go. Make sure I continue to have a hot spot on. And good evening to everybody. I also see Alita WA7AL has joined us this evening. I have you in the log as well, Alita from Utah. Good to see you this evening. And I'll be watching the chat here. So if y'all have any other comments, I do see a few coming in. Let me go ahead and pause for a reset here. Okay. I believe Catherine, a C4YL, will be monitoring the Dewdrop In. And that chat, if you have a ability to go to dewdropin.org, which is just like that. And if you want to go and chat over there or share pictures or anything like that, screenshots, please feel free to do so. I think my audio might be a little low. Let me adjust my mic there. How's that? Okay. I see Alita, no problem. Short time, that's just fine. And I notice in the chat here that we are also joined by Marine VE3MIO. So, with that being said, let me make sure I get you in the log too. And good evening to you, Marine. Glad to have you join us this evening from Ontario, Canada. All right. Well, I think probably a good place to start this evening's net is there's a few of you that are short time and a few of you that are new and a few of you that we haven't seen in a while. So I'd like to go ahead and open it up to the group and open it up to the group here and see if there's anybody that has some announcements, what's been going on, what they've been up to, what they've been doing, that they would like to share with us this evening, let's throw your call out there, and we'll get you acknowledged, and you can come in and share with the group. Please call now.
This is Kilo Alpha 1, United Lima, November. Nice to see the Azores call there. Charlie Uniform 3. It's Nisi in Massachusetts. Back to net.
Well, good evening to you, Nisi. And yes, that is Francisco. He is a great supporter of the net and carries it through to the wilds out there in the Azores. So good eye on that call. And like I said, he is a wonderful supporter, and he will only respond in the chat as he is not a YL, but he does make sure that all the YLs out on that side of the world get a chance to listen to the net, and we're glad for his support and always glad that he's out there. I see Rosemarie, KB4RM, has also joined us this evening. Good evening to you, Rosemarie, and I do have you in the log. Is there anybody else that would like to share anything with the net, things that they've done, been doing, going to do, etc., etc.? Just throw your call out. Let's hear from you. This is AG4YL.
KC8PKY.
Ah, brilliant, Linda. We hear you and copy you loud and clear. Please go ahead.
I was checking my email earlier and had got the ARRL letter, and there's quite a nice little article about Ruth in there. So if anybody who gets it ought to take a look at it. Back to net, KC8PK.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, it is in, if you're a member of the ARRL and get the ARRL letter in your inbox, as I do, it is in there. It is also in the news, and let me pull that up real quick, that I believe anybody should be able to see that. I don't think you have to be a member to see that. I'm going to get that for you in a moment. Just give me a second to find it. But the editor of the school of Kettering University up in Michigan, where Ruth, KM4LAO, attends, the editor of the, I guess it's a student magazine or student paper, did an article on Ruth and her ham radio endeavors, and it was awesome, really great. For those of you that aren't familiar, Ruth, when she's not going to school or working, there we are. When she's not going to school or working in her co-op job, she is out there on the radio every chance she gets. And thanks for that, Catherine. Of course, I found it after you were already there, so nice. But there you go. Copied twice, because two is always better than one, right? unless it's a cold or something. But anyway, for those that don't get this or cannot connect to that, it basically talks about her the Youth DX Dave Keller Memorial Youth DX Adventure. Let me pause for reset here. Okay, make sure I have it. And the article also talks about her the Hamvention Youth Forum last year. It says, Kettering University News took notice of Willett in a February 12 article. Kettering University student brings ham radio hobby expertise to campus. So it's quite interesting, and that link, which is probably, there we go. There's that link. Oh, really, Catherine? Really? Anyway, I'm just not going to look anything up anymore. I'm gonna play a word game or a puzzle or something over here, and let's just Catherine find all the links for us because she's obviously right there, isn't she? But anyway, the article is interesting, and I'm certain if you can't get the ARRL article, you can go directly to the Kettering News article. So it's kind of awesome. Is that what it is? It's teamwork. Okay. She does have my back when it comes to looking things up on the internet, and I try to do the same when she is acting as net control on here. Okay. Anybody else? Would you like to share anything with the net, or what you're going to do, what you've been doing, or what you'd like to do? Go ahead, throw your call out. We'll recognize you. This is AG4YL.
AC4YL.
You ask the OMs to please stand by during the net. This net is for YLs only, or female ham radio operators. I'd like to acknowledge Patricia, VE4PEH. Good evening to you, Patricia. Good to have you joining us on the net this evening, and I do have you in the log. We were just catching up and talking about what's been up and what's been going on with us over the last, since we last got together on the net, so over the last week or so. Some of us have not been on for a while. I'd like to go ahead, and I didn't really get a chance too much last week, but there we go. I was dealing with my own technical things last week, but I'd like to talk a little bit about the wonderful time to be had at Hamcation down in Orlando, and all the great eyeball QSOs we got to have, and meeting everybody, and getting all the great pictures, and meeting with old friends and making new friends, and having a lot of fun. And there was a couple things that Catherine and I do forums, and we try to talk to and engage with as many WILs as possible when we go and do these things. And there's a couple things that keep coming up, and I thought maybe might be interesting, and maybe you guys might have some input in this. I know Margaret will, to the first item, which is we get a lot of people ask, how do I engage more WILs? How do I get more WILs interested in ham radio? How do I attract more WILs to my club or to my group? And that's such a tough question to answer, because I mean, ham radio is about people, not just YLs. It's about people that have an interest in radio. Let me pause for a reset here. So that question's a little tough because, of course, we don't want to exclude anybody, and it's not the idea at all. I'm often asked why we do things, for YLs, why we encourage YLs, or why we have nets that are just for YLs. And as I said, our intention is not to exclude anybody, and I don't believe anyone here on this net thinks that we are trying to exclude ourselves from the rest of the ham radio community. But I believe that male operators have a few advantages in that they are generally speaking, again, there's always exceptions, but generally speaking, because of either expectations or just almost built-in mentorship, guys already have a leg up in radio, electronics, and the more technical hobbies and things like that. They're already kind of primed and either, as I said, expected to know this stuff, or raised to know this stuff, or have more mentors and more Elmers to help them with this. So to come back around to the question that we get asked a lot, how do you get more YLs into your club? The best answer that I could come up with to this was just attract people to your club. Have your club have very good events. When you attract more new hams or old hams that maybe aren't active or aren't really using their license, you're going to attract more YLs. It's just going to happen. There's a percentage in there that's going to come in. So I think the best thing that you can do is just attract more people to the hobby in general. 33, Alita, have a great night. Let me pause for a reset. Try to, engage everybody. I was reminded recently of something that was mentioned. Kay Craigie, who was from Georgia, a couple of years back when she was still ARL president, she came and visited her alma mater here in the Atlanta area, and also visited one of the clubs in the area. And Catherine went to see her and spoke with her. But one of the things that one of the takeaways I think that Kay said was, take your HT everywhere you go. Carry your HT with you. Have it on you, so that people will ask questions. What is that? Are you a cop? No, I'm a ham radio operator, and let me tell you about it. That's just a little example, and talking about the hobby and engaging people in the hobby are going to attract everybody to the hobby, and especially the ladies here. If we talk about it, that's automatically going to make it seem more accessible to other women, that the hobby isn't just a man's hobby. A lot of you know my story. I'm not going to, don't run. I'm not going to bore you all with it again. But my deepest question on whether or not I wanted to get into this hobby was, is there a place for me in this hobby? So I'd like to open it up to the group and I would just love to hear any comments on that, any notes on that topic of that question that we get asked. How do I get more wilds into the hobby, or into my club, or into my group, or into this in general? Please call now. Oh, well, I saw you key up there, Margaret, but I didn't hear anything.
Okay, can you hear me now? Over.
Okay, there we go. I got you loud and clear. Go ahead, Margaret.
Here we go. Let's try this again. I don't know why I wasn't transmitting. Okay, I am a member of a really good amateur radio club, and we have women in it, and we have a lot of women in it. We have women that are in leadership positions within it. And one of the things that we do is that we have a table at Field Day, and it is the second table that you see when you enter. And there's always 2 or 3 women sitting there, and we're chit-chatting. We may be knitting or crocheting or just shooting the breeze. But when women come up, why then we greet them and we tell them what amateur radio is all about. We also have YL Tech classes, and these are classes for women by women, and that seems to, we tell them about that also at Field Day. So Field Day is where we do a lot of our outreach, and then when we run our classes, why then we have a ham radio outlet store about 50 miles from us, and they're really good about holding our flyers and whatever. So that's what we're doing. Over.
KA1ULN.
Okay, thank you very much, Margaret. Please go ahead, Nisi.
I don't know if I mentioned it last week, but last Friday I spoke to the Girl Scouts, and it relates to today and your current question. So what I did is, when you see Girl Scouts selling cookies, the first thing I thought about was not buying the cookies, was bingo, look at all these YLs. I can go talk to them and tell them all about amateur radio. That's the other thing we should do if we want to recruit. I wouldn't recruit if they're not knowledgeable already about this hobby. Probably shouldn't use ham radio. We are amateur radio operators. That's what I would continue to use to people that are not familiar with it. Amateur radio operators. Please remember that. You can say, you're a ham and you're a ham and you're a ham when you see call signs, but if they're not hams, I'd say amateur radio operators. Anyway, they invited me. because they were doing, the troop leader told me that they were doing detective work. So she, standing there, they were outside selling cookies, and I'm here, whistling, some Morse code. And that's when she said, "Oh, you'll be great for our detective day." Now, let me reset. By the way, I was never a Girl Scout, but I know that today is Girl Scout Thinking Day. Today is Girl Scout Thinking Day. So get on Facebook and say, "Happy Girl Scout Thinking Day." So they invited me, and I knew there was about 15 Girl Scouts, 2 advanced Girl Scouts, and 2 troop leaders. I just said, at first I just said, who I am, and I'm happy to be here. And then I said, I want to know about your hobby. If each one of you go around and tell me about your hobby. None of them said Girl Scouts, and none of them said anything really. So then I told them I'm an amateur radio operator, and I related amateur radio to something current, like I talked about Puerto Rico and how people were there and people don't have any electricity, and just the situation there, and how amateur radio operators are going there and finding them and informing their loved ones of, that they found them or not found them. And then I had 2 straight keys. One was attached to a speaker. One was attached to a big light. I told the troop leader to print out the international Morse code. Gave them each one of them, and I told them on the bottom, right, I'll put all this out on my blog. I should have taken pictures. I didn't, but I know they're going to invite me back. Put in Morse code, put their name down the bottom, and just real quick, I promise. I went down about 3 letters, and I said, an A sounds like and they saw it on the paper. It looks like a period and a dash, and I said, it sounds like did-ah, did, and the dash sounds like a da. And then I did a B and a C with them. Da-did-it, da-did, da-did. And, I did that with them. They heard me and they saw me point at the letter. And then a couple of them, I said, let me see you spell your name, on the key. And they looked at it. They said, da-da, did-da, did-da-dit, da-da-da-da. It was so funny. It was so funny. They were saying how it sounds. And it's great. That's great. They were at least paying attention. They know how to say it, and they know how to touch it. So, so all that came out of them trying to sell me some Girl Scouts. So, use amateur radio operators and approach the Girl Scouts and maybe get on and say Happy Thinking Day to the Girl Scouts today. KA1ULN, back to net.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's inspirational. And forgive me for having a brain freeze, Nisi. Is it blogspot.com or .net? KA1ULN.blogspot. Go ahead and type that in there real quick, unless you want to come back and tell everyone. I was just going to post it real quick here, and I lost my brain went something weird, and I've got it bookmarked. But thank you, Com. Okay, I thought it was, but I wanted to make sure before I posted it incorrectly. KA1ULN.blogspot.com. That's Nisi's blog. It's fantastic, wonderful, and a great resource and inspiration for wild's everywhere. That's a great story, Nisi, and thank you for sharing that. Just from them wanting to sell you cookies to you actually doing a presentation. Catherine put a couple of links. I put a link up there. This is interesting. This is out of the UK. This actually explains the history of Thinking Day on the Air and what it's all about. Catherine put in the link to the Girl Scouts patch, which ARRL has sponsored it, and it's if you go to arrl.org/girl-scouts-radio-patch, we've seen it. Our club, NFARL, bought a bunch from ARRL to do for the Girl Scouts to get them to get their patches, and it's a radio and wireless technology patch program. So that's, you know, it's a big deal as well. And Carol, KP4MD, Catherine indicates that there's a workshop to help them get their patch, so that's fantastic. And yes, Thinking Day on the Air, really interesting article about how that all came to be. Let me pause for reset. Okay, so thank you for all of that and telling that story. We really appreciate it, Nisi. Thank you. I'd also like to, well, first of all, welcome, Dawn. I do have you in the log. Good evening to you, WA4YL, Dawn, from Florida. Good to see you on this evening. Another thing that came up, which I mentioned when we were talking about scouting, and you've heard me say this before. I'm going to share it again because it's been a while, and it will be coming up. I'm certain Catherine will have the link just as soon as it comes out from between my lips, and that's a Jamboree on the Air. Now, everybody associates. I'm really having issues speaking this evening. Everyone associates Jamboree on the Air with Boy Scouts. And it might be because the Boy Scouts were the ones that are sponsoring the patch or the program. However, it is not just for Boy Scouts. And darn it, really? Really? Okay. Anyway, it's not just for Boy Scouts. They do sponsor the patch, but it's for all Scouts. And Jamboree on the Air with the Girl Scouts, is Girl Guides, is actually popular in other countries. It takes the U.S. a little while to catch on and get their girls actually on board with a lot of the programs that are out there. But Jamboree on the Air is for all Scouts, Girl Guides, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, all of them. And Catherine puts a quote in there. Scouts of any age can participate, from Cub Scouts to Boy Scouts and Venturers, including girls. Absolutely. So there's a lot of opportunities for outreach, as Nisi pointed out. And I'd like to go back to Margaret 87MB because I think about the work that she does doing while-only tech classes. Let me pause for reset. And yes, thank you for that, for making that note in there as well. Do appreciate that note, Francisco. The JOTA, the Jamboree on the Air, is big in Portugal and all over the world. Great way to get newcomers, and he is absolutely right. Again, here in the United States, we're just a little slow on the uptake to get the girls up to speed and let them know that it's not just a Boy Scouts thing. And this also, I mean, the kids want to play radio. The kids want to do these things. A lot of this is going to be outreach to parents, to adults, to have them understand that this is even an option. If they don't know, the kids aren't going to know that it's an option that's available. So outreaching to the parents is a big deal, and talking to them about it is a big deal. and asking them if they have children. When they ask you, hey, what is that HT or something, or like Nisi said, just engage. Everybody can learn. And Francisco also mentions Yoda, Youngsters on the Air. And Youngsters on the Air is really, really big in Europe. He's absolutely right about that. And I've seen these spots, DX calls for Youngsters on the Air. Some people say Youth on the Air. It's Youngsters on the Air technically, but it doesn't really matter. It's about getting kids involved. And they're kind of the future. I see we've just been joined by Casey9YL, and good evening, Ann. We have you in the log. And I see our GM repeater is back and hooked up again. Just a note to everyone, please, I don't care how you need to time yourselves, but please do not time out the repeaters on down the line. You really got to pause for a while. Count to 5. You'll take these repeaters down very quickly. It takes a while for them all to catch up with us. So make sure when you pause for reset, which I'm going to do right now, make sure you're not just listening for the NF4GA courtesy beat, which we're working on to eliminate, but that you're giving everything connected all the way down, time enough to reset. So again, the rule of thumb here is to count to 5. And interesting information. Catherine's putting some really good things in here, and Maureen was mentioning about meeting Lady Baden-Powell, who was the founder of Scouting and Girl Guides. So really quite fascinating story, and they go back a long ways. There's a lot of good stuff to learn here. Margaret, AE7MB, for those that aren't familiar, she briefly mentioned it, but this lady gets an amazing amount of YLs into the hobby. She helps do YL-only technician classes. She is a VE. I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Margaret, you're an ARRL VE. And gets them tested, gets them working on their license, and helps them to study and learn about the hobby. And their YL-only tech classes. And we once asked her, how do you find the YLs? How do you find the interested participants to do these classes and get these gals licensed? And she touched on it briefly, mentioning about field day and having a table up. And if you have a club that has a really good field day, that's great. It's kind of built in. You have to, reach out to them. If you don't, then form one or make it happen or get the interest there. I'm going to pause for a reset. And we'd like to welcome a couple of new people here. K2EZ, Andrea, good evening to you. Nice to see you. And just about the same time, we have K1AVMG also joining us. I'm going to get you in the log here. And my log just did something weird, so sorry about the pause here while I'm working out the kinks. We're going to get it all together eventually, won't we? And there we are. Awesome. We are up to date and good to go now. Welcome, everyone. Always welcome to join in at any time that you can. Gina's from Massachusetts, and of course Andrea, we are all aware, is from New Jersey. So good evening to both of you, and I'm glad you could join us this evening. We have been talking about one of the questions that Catherine and I get asked at Hamfest is, how do you attract more wiles to the hobby? And so we are talking about Margaret A7MB outreaching at Field Day and having, women amateur radio operators at the table at Field Day. If you do not have a big field day, you don't need a big field day. You just need a field day. And talk to people, invite them, wherever you go to eat. You'd be surprised at the people that serve you your food, how interested that they are in your hobby. The people that do work on your card, the people that check you out at the grocery store. Engage with all members of the public and let them know that there are wiles out there, because even it doesn't have to be exclusively wild. Even OMs, they may have heard of amateur radio, but they probably have a wife, a mother, a sister, or a daughter that they can get interested in the hobby. We'll pause for reset. So there's the other question is, that kind of leads me to, as I get the question from the OM, how do I get my mother, wife, sister, daughter, friend, or whatever, interested into the hobby? And there was a gentleman at one of the forums with his wife, and he's licensed, and I asked her if she was, and she said no, and he jumped right in there and said, but I'm trying to get her interested. I'm trying to get her to, want to get her license and all this. And I said, you can't. She has to want to. She has to want to be interested and get licensed. If you get your license for somebody else, it's the wrong reason. You have to really be interested in the hobby. So this brings about another side. There are so many things you can do in this hobby. This has got to be like the most versatile hobby ever. You can have nets. You can do a net like this one on anything. And I mean anything. It doesn't have to be ham radio oriented. You can get your license, get on Echolink, and you can do nets. You can get on and join nets. You can do friendships. You can meet people all around the world. You can talk in a foreign language. There are nets on just Echolink alone where you're not dependent on propagation and the type of license you have on everything under the sun. That's just to start with. There is working marathons and parades and fireworks displays and other forms of community service that need communications. There is joining your local Aries group. Races get involved in CERT, Saturn, Skywarn, so many other emergency preparedness. There is obviously contesting on different bands, and there is portable operations. No, pause for a reset. Ann mentions talking a foreign language like CW. Hi, and she's right. Learn something new. There was a woman in one of our forums, I believe it was at Hamcation last year. Not Hamcation, it was in Huntsville last year. Her story is very interesting. She was in her 70s, and she was a relatively new ham. She'd been licensed less than 10 years. And when asked how she got involved in ham radio, there was a man she was dating, and he was a ham, and he said she was too stupid to get her license. That's all she needed. She kicked him to the curb, studied, got her license, worked her way up in the levels of licensing, but the really interesting thing is that she decided she wanted to get into the electronic side of it and build stuff. And so that required her to learn how to read schematics and how to solder and work with circuit boards. And she showed us a backpack that she had that was an RF detector. She built an RF detector and installed it in her backpack with these cool LED lights on it that lit up whenever you were in an RF field. She's like, here, someone key up their HT, and the backpack lit up. Fun, right? All because the man she was dating said she was too stupid to ever get her license. And she decided that she wanted to get into the electronics side. That's was her entry into that, and to soldering stuff and doing really cool, fun stuff. Yeah, I mean, is it, world peace? No, but it doesn't have to be. It brings joy to her, and that brings joy to the people around her. And by golly, I can't think of a better hobby. I think it's awesome. And Catherine makes a comment, most RMs are extremely supportive, and yes, they are, but that's not the point. The point here is that there are so many different aspects that you can usually find one that's interesting to you. Pause for reset. Some people like to build antennas. Some people like to try to break into a pilot for that rare DX. Some people like to collect QSL cards. Some people like to improve their soldering techniques and learn how to put a connector on a piece of coax. Some like to build wire antennas. Nisi. Some people want to learn new modes of operation and do digital, especially now when the bands are kind of ugh. I can sit here and make a dozen FT8 contacts without breaking a sweat. It's not always the most thrilling thing, but it's okay. It's just another aspect of the hobby. Some people like to what they call roll your own or build your own equipment and radios. I think the January issue of QST magazine has Bob Heil's Pine Board project in it, and he won the cover plaque award for that. If you are not a member of ARRL, you can go to any candy store and pick up QST. They should still have a January issue for sale. You can also go to Twit TV. That's Tango Whiskey India Tango. Twit TV. And watch episodes of Bob's show, Ham Nation, and you can find the one with the Pine Board Project. You can also go to Heil.com, Heil Sound, HeilSound.com, and that's H-E-I-L, HeilSound.com, and he has a link there to his Pine Board Project. It's an AM radio. You build each separate piece the old-fashioned way, and it's super, super interesting, and just a lot of different things that you can do. Just so many different things you can do and that you can learn and that you can keep your brain alive and you can talk to other people and they get excited about it because you're excited about it. Pause for reset. So I guess I've been rambling on here for a little while about this. I'd like to hear from y'all. That's where I learn all my stuff, is talking to everybody else and listening to other people. And I'm certain there are ladies out there that have some comments, thoughts, I don't know, questions, answers, anything like that on what we've been talking about so far. So please throw your call out there. We'll acknowledge you, and we would love to hear you share with us on the net. This is AG4YL.
ACAPKY.
Okay, Linda, please go ahead.
Well, I found that several times when I've talked to YLs, they'll say, well, I'm not that technical. And I explain to them, you don't have to be technically oriented to do that. And, you know, I tell them, hey, I was a nurse. That's not technically oriented. And, you know, just getting conversations going. A lot of times people will look at my license plate because I have the call sign plate on my car. Or they'll see something on my hat and wonder what that is. And that gets the conversation started. But I know several YLs back in Detroit that got their license because their husbands told them they couldn't do it. And they don't do anything with it. So, yeah, I agree with you. They have to want to do it. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, KC8PKY.
Excellent points made there. Yes, your outreach and telling people that you don't have to be technical, and that's why I said there's so many things you can do. Rosie, VE4YYL in Manitoba, her and Hurl, and both of them are licensed. He's VE3 GWN, Glenn. Both of them every year work this big race, this big run up there, marathon up in Winnipeg. And they absolutely love it, do it every year and do support. Not technical, it's an HT. Chasing, you don't have to be technical. You can be as technical as you want to, or as not technical as you don't want to. You're absolutely right. And helping people understand that and explaining that is great. And opening up conversation, like you said, your vanity plates, your call sign on an article of clothing, carrying your HT around, engaging people and talking to them about it. Now, for the YLs that don't do anything with their license, you can still engage them. You can still get them interested. You can turn them on to things like Echolink and like this net and like going to field day. Drag them to a field day or make your own field day. If you don't have a field day, get a group of people together. There's a group out in New Mexico, I believe, that go out every, I think it's like the second Saturday of every month. Anyway, it's like a Saturday morning every month. They meet out in the desert and go play radio. They just bring whatever equipment that they want to bring. They share each other's equipment. People that don't have equipment or antennas, they share it all together and put it all together. And they go out and they play radio. That's it. Just go out and play radio out in the desert. So it's a lot of fun. I'm going to pause for reset. Linda mentions the marathon in Detroit. It is the top of the hour, and Margaret, the band's Flatter than a pancake? How are we doing this evening? Is there going to be an HF net on this evening? If you want the mic, I can give it to you, or you can chat it, or maybe you're checking the band conditions as we speak. But I just looked down and noticed that it was 9 Eastern, and wondering how we are doing as far as the net goes. Okay, Margaret's checking the bands as we speak. They have been really crunchy lately, so I don't know. Hence why I have pretty much done nothing this month except FT8. So, while Margaret's checking the bands, for those of you that aren't familiar, there is a HF net on Thursdays, and it's usually at 9. It's a check-in, you know. Is there anybody out there? Are there any YLs out there, and can you hear me? And Margaret's going to check that now. Usually Margaret, 87MB, that's in Washington, and WB1ARU in Massachusetts do the net. Sometimes both, sometimes neither. So just depends on how the band conditions are doing right now. So she is checking for that. And Catherine is unabashedly putting in the ham radio now. The YL show, live from Orlando, ham radio now. Yeah, watch if you dare. So Catherine and I are getting ready to do the forum down in Hamcation, and up walks, yeah, bands are sketchy in Florida. Bands are sketchy here in Georgia too, Dawn. Up walks Gary from Ham Radio Now and says, okay, let's try again next week. Okay, so no HF net, so y'all can stay here if you like, or you can go about and do whatever you like. But Gary from Ham Radio Now, who's leaving the show officially, but is still doing cool things like, radio cast from Hamfest. Let me pause for a reset. Oh, I need to put on a fan in here. It is just hotter than the dickens. See if I can get a little fan action going on here on me. Okay. All right. Stuffy up here in the second floor apartment. Got a little toasty today. So he walks up to Catherine and myself and says, hey, after the forum, if you want to come down and find my booth, and told us where it was, and said I'd like to do an interview. And we looked at each other and looked at him and went, okay. Kind of like, why? Why would anyone want to interview us? But okay. And so after the forum, we found our way down there and sat down, and Dawn, W4YL, was along with us, and she says, "Oh, I'm not, I'm not part of, their thing." And he's like, "Are you amateur radio operator?" She's like, "Yeah." And like, "Do you like it?" She's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay, then you're on." So the three of us sat back in the hottest building in the doggone entire, I swear, in the state of Florida. It was the hottest building, and sweated for an hour and a half while we did this thing. So that's what Catherine, the link that she put up on there. And all you need to do is go to Ham Radio Now and put in the YL show, or go to YouTube and put in the YL show, and it's funny. I haven't watched it. I watched it, and I never will. I just can't do that. I can't watch myself do a radio show. Other people say it was good, but I mean, I was there. What do I need to watch it for, right? Anyway, hotter than a firecracker. Yeah, it was. And see, look, there's the podcast. Oh, okay, Catherine, that's cool. Let's anyway. But a lot of the questions he asked are a lot of things we're talking about here, and a lot of things that we cover in the forum, which is, getting people active. But for those YLs that don't do things with their license, again, just tell them the cool things you can do. We pause for reset. Oh, well, thank you, Yolanda. I hope you're not leaving. Do you have to go? Hang in there. I'm glad you're enjoying yourself. But, you know, we keep rolling through till 9:30 Eastern, so this is an hour and a half. John says, I watched it and listened to it while I tried everything to fall asleep, and that's all it took, right? Yeah, that's all it usually takes. Just let me talk to you and you'll go right to sleep. But anyway, other things people were asking, and a lot of comments that I got was, I wish national parks on the air, you know, had kept going. I wish it wasn't over. I wish it, you know, that was a great way to get people. There was a lot of people that got interested, and I know that there were, I know for a fact, 'cause I've talked to them, there were YLs that got licensed because their OMs were out playing radio, either as chasers or as activators in the national parks in 2016. And they went, wow, that looks like fun. I'd like to go and do that too. And they got their license so they could go play radio. Well, there is something that's still going on. It doesn't have the, I guess, the time pressure, because in National Parks on the Air was a one-year thing. It was celebrating the 100th year anniversary of the National Park Service, and it was only National Park Service entities that you could go out and either activate, you know, be the pileup, or go and sit at your radio and chase. Do the hunt and pounce, trying to find these activators. So there was a sense of urgency attached to that program, which I think got people kind of, you know, excited about it. But there's something that's been going on for years, and it's been big in Europe. Francisco will know about this. It's called Worldwide Flora and Fauna, WWFF. Pause for a reset. Worldwide Flora and Fauna, WWFF. And the U.S. arm is the KFF. K for the U.S. call area, and Flora and Fauna. Or as they call it, Fauna and Flora. They switched it around. Some of you may have also heard the term POTA, Parks on the Air. Let me briefly explain something. WWFF-KFF, the U.S. arm of WWFF, used to have the attached Parks on the Air piece to it. So it was WFF-KFF Parks on the Air, otherwise known as POTA. And the KFF did things a little different than other countries' arms of WWFF, because a lot of countries have their own. You know, there's OFF, and there's a lot of the big. They have a lot of hands, a lot of interest in it. A lot of countries have their own arm of WWFF. But the KFF did things a little differently, and they incorporated a lot of stuff and sort of wanted to use some of the rules and ideas from National Parks on the Air, which came along, as I said, after WWFF. It's been on for years now. And so because of the difference, and they wanted to do things differently, the Parks on the Air has separated and is their own entity. And then WWFF-KFF, which is part of the WWFF, is its own entity. So sometimes on spotting networks you will see KFF POTA. These are usually people that are working both programs. There's nothing wrong with that. You can grid chase while you're state chasing, or county chasing while you grid chase. It's the same thing. You can POTA while you KFF. And pause for reset. There's a reason why I mention this, because there is a lot of confusion. We have a lot of people that ask about this and don't understand the difference between Parks on the Air or POTA and KFF or WWFF KFF. There's also Summits on the Air. There's also lighthouses. The lighthouse historic. Oh my gosh, I can't remember the acronym now. But anyway, there's a society of lighthouse radio amateurs. They go and activate lighthouses. Summits on the Air, SOTA. There's U.S. Islands. There is I know there's another one that I'm missing and I'm not getting it. IOTA, thank you, Catherine. Islands on the Air. And Francisco mentions that yes, WWFF, it's big. It's a big deal there in Portugal. And haven't heard of Beaches on the Air, but I love it. So there's a lot of ways for you to get out and get active. And in fact, WWFF's moniker, I guess you could say, on their webpage is Make Nature Your Shack. So for those that may lament to you, National Parks on the Air is over. Well, it might be, but the nice thing about WWFF and KFF is that state parks are also on the list. So just about everybody that I'm talking to here has a WWFF entity really close by. Go out and play radio in the field. Go play portable. It's so much fun. It's addicting. You'll get out there and you're going to go nuts. Pause for reset. So there's a lot of things that you can do to get out there and do some different things and get active and get people interested in it. You can do any of these, although it's not as effective, of course, using an HT. In fact, a lot of people use an HT to do summits on the air. They just go simplex FM, which simply means you don't have an offset. You don't use a repeater. You go radio to radio, which you can do on 2 meters when you're standing on the top of a mountain somewhere. Or a summit can just be a small mountain. Kennesaw National Battlefield Park, which is a National Park Service entity, is also a summit, a SOTA unit here, right in Marietta. Or it might be considered Kennesaw. Anyway, it's very, very close to where I'm talking to you from right now. There are state parks all over the place that you can do KFF from to get out there and play. And when you see on the Spotting Network people doing, you see KFF or POTA or KFF POTA or WWFF. If you see, you'll see this come up. You'll see this thing come up on DX spots. You can work this program around the world, and you can collect really nice-looking wallpaper, really nice-looking things to stick on your, stick in a frame and put on the wall. You can print them out. So there's a lot of things. Francisco points out Beaches on the Air, which is beachesontheair.com. He said there are 35 beaches listed in the USA entity. 35 beaches. That's great for those that might be on the coastline anywhere here in the U.S. So check it out. Get active. Get out there. And let's hear from the group. This is Melanie, a G4YL, and I'd love to hear from the group what y'all might have to say. Thoughts, comments, ideas, or totally unrelated. Please call now.
This is KC1EEO.
Hi, Brenda. Please go ahead. The mic is yours.
Well, I just wanted to go back to something that Nisi had said about how we are amateur radio operators, and it's better to say that than to say ham. And actually, my OM/Elmer has said that we really should say we are FCC licensed radio operators because, yes, we agree, people don't understand ham because they think of a ham as like a bad actor or something, inferior. They don't respect it. But they also don't respect amateur. They think you're not good enough to be a professional or something like that. So FCC licensed radio operator sort of tells them that it's something that we have to get a special license from the FCC and that it's something to respect. But on the other hand, sometimes it goes all the way back to square one because I try to explain to people and they seem like sometimes really mystified. They don't know what I'm talking about. And so I finally give up and say ham radio, and then they go, oh, okay. So, it could go either way depending on who you're talking to. You kind of have to play it by ear, what you say, what we are. So it is kind of an interesting question, what do we call ourselves and how do people take that? KC1EO, back to that.
Thank you very much, Brenda. That's a good point that you make, and it is true. It really does depend on who you're talking to, and I mean, growing up, my dad was a ham, and that's what we called it, ham radio. That's what he did. He was a ham. And the hobby was called ham radio, and that's what we referred to it as. And it was something, cool and mysterious and really neat. It still had that kind of neat sending out the radio waves into the ether kind of thing going on, and it was definitely respectable to be a ham or a ham radio operator. Nisi makes a great point in, saying with Girl Scouts, it's an amateur radio operator instead of ham, as opposed to ham. FCC licensed radio operator. That's another great way of putting it too, and it definitely holds some respect that you do have to have a license from the FCC to be able to play radio. It can be a double-edged sword, though. While it does bring credibility, legitimacy, possibly respect, carries the weight of having to study very hard and get a license that you're not just fooling around. The other side of it is that it can sound too serious, or it could sound too daunting, perhaps intimidating to some. So I agree with what you said. It really depends on who you're talking to and how you're using is how you're addressing people with this. Let me pause for a reset. So yes, please, just have fun. It's a fun hobby. It's supposed to be a hobby. It does have challenges, which is what keeps it interesting. It has many aspects, which keeps it interesting. It has lots to offer a lot of different people in a lot of different places of all ages, sizes, shapes, genders, whether you're mobile or not. It doesn't matter. I think there's something to offer everyone, which makes it the world's greatest hobby. And that was something that I think that moniker came about in the 80s or something. The world's greatest hobby, or the greatest hobby. It really is. And I almost hate to call it a hobby because it's just so doggone cool. It's one of the best things that I've ever been involved in. So, any more comments, thoughts, ideas? Please call now. This is AG4YL.
Yeah, I'm watching. Okay, there we go. We have Open Doors Winnipeg once a year. So our seniors club is opened, which is in an old fire station upstairs. And we have a museum on the main floor, so we have lots of people that go to the museum and then check out the club, and that's lots of fun. I always like to talk to the ladies, and I'm usually sitting at the radio, and I'll sometimes get strange stares when some people walk by and look at me sitting at the radio. But anyway, it's lots of fun. Although the last time we told somebody when we were chatting up ham radio, we told them that we were ham operators, and they asked us if we were pig farmers. Back to net control.
Very nice, very nice. Pig farmers indeed. That's something that if you go into South Georgia, you'll find plenty of pig farms there. That's a wonderful idea. That's a fantastic thing. I think it's great. See, there's so many ways that you can interact with people, and not just to get them to get their license, but just to get them to have fun, just to give somebody a piece of joy. Here, get on the radio. It doesn't mean you have to make a whole doggone hobby out of it. Just join us and have some fun. If they decide they want to go ahead and get their license, great. If not, who cares? Just come on and have some fun with us. And that's what's so neat about the go to or get on the air station at Field Day. You know, you don't need to have Field Day to have a quote-unquote go-to station. Under the FCC rules, as long as you're the control operator and you are licensed for the band that you are operating on, anybody can come on third party and use your call, and then can get on the radio. So if you establish a QSO with somebody and you say, hey, I'd like to bring on my whoever, friend, whoever that might be, put them on the air. It can be youth. You can do your own get on the air with youth, your Girl Scout group. You know, put them on the air. Bring a radio in and a simple antenna and get them to play radio or get on the local repeater. Okay, so something I wanted to bring up that some of you may not know. Francisco mentioned that he was here visiting in the U.S. and he got on a repeater in Gulfport, Mississippi, and made lots of friends there. Now, I'm certain he already knows this, but some of you may not or may not have really thought about it. A lot of repeaters out there have Echolink nodes. The one he was on might. But you can talk on local repeaters right here through Echolink. Hit pause for a reset. So using your phone, tablet, or computer, you can work the local repeaters. So if you've got a group from your club or a neighboring club or some folks that you have talked to during drive time, or you just want to join in on the chat, or you want to learn to be learn some more about radio, because sometimes they talk about technical issues. It just depends. Get on a local repeater. Rosie has found me a few times when I would be driving to work and I would be on the NF4GA repeater, which is attached to this net at this time. And I would be riding in my car on the way to work. And Rosie, up in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, would come on to the NF4GA repeater and we would have a QSO. She would call and look for me to see if I was on. And if I was on, we'd have a queue. And it's kind of fun because you're on a local repeater. So there's a lot that you can do with Echolink besides what we're doing right now. There are a few of you out there that are learning code. W1AW has a node called W1AW BDCT. W1AW Bravo Delta Charlie Tango. And they do code practice. Slow, medium, fast. And you can get the schedules for the code practice. It is on a free part of the ARRL.org site. You do not need to be a member. And they use articles out of QSD. And you can actually get code. Somebody help me here. We can get endorsements. There we go. Endorsements for code using the code practice on from W1AW. So you don't have to get them over the air. You can get it right through Echolink. You pause for a reset. So Linda KCPKY, who is has relocated, I guess it's probably been, gosh, going on maybe a year and a half now, Linda, maybe close to 2 years possibly. She was in Detroit, and so she checks into the Detroit club net that they belong to via Echolink. You can check into your club's net. The NF4GA repeater Sunday evenings at, what time is Tech Talk, Catherine? NFARL does a Tech Talk on Monday nights, 8:30 Eastern Time, Monday nights. And it could be about anything. They also use that same do-drop-in chat room, the nfarl.dodropin.org. They use the same chat room, and they watch that, and the moderator watches that, and it's great. And don't let the word Tech Talk scare you. It could be about anything. Last Monday's was all about CW, and there's a few guys in the club that are really, really cool about helping you learn CW, and I get into that. And they'll post all the links on the Yahoo Reflector. They have a Yahoo group, NFARL Yahoo group, and they'll post all the links on that. So if you're into Yahoo groups, you can check it out on that. But try it. Go to NF4GA. Now, there is a node on Echolink a conference called Tech Talk, but it's not the same thing. Oh, and I wanted to mention to you all, because Catherine always monitors the Do Drop In. If you ever have an issue getting connected, you may go to Do Drop In, or if you can get on Echolink for a minute, saying, I'm having an issue. I noticed Dawn popping in and out a few times, and I noticed she stayed pretty good this last time. But I opened up conferencing on my Echolink. I'll make pause for reset. Either Catherine or myself can open up conferencing, and that means you just go to People, click on my call sign, and you can connect in. But I have to turn on conferencing for you to do it. Wow, the time has just flown, and the time is up for us this evening. I'd like to go ahead and take this moment to ask for any additional check-ins and make sure we have you in the log. If you just want to officially check in and say hello, please call now. This is AG4YL.
WA4YL, good evening everybody on the net. Glad to hear everyone out here. And my take on the YL show is I really enjoyed doing it. And I enjoyed being with Catherine and Melanie at the show and at the Ham Fest, and I'll always remember it now. And next year I hope to do the same. And I'm going to say my 33 is it's getting to that hour. And back to net control. WA4YL.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much for coming in, Dawn. Always good to talk to you. It looks like they've got the NF4GA repeater automatically disconnects at a minute or two after the hour and a half. Thank you for coming in. Thank you, everybody that's been here. Don't forget to visit the YL OpNet Facebook group. It is a group for YLs only. So, sorry guys listening. It's just for us gals. If you want to join, just answer the questions. Put in your name, your call sign, and answer the couple questions that Catherine has set up for you, and one of us will approve you, usually rather quickly. We would like to thank Lauren, KC9ZHV, for live streaming and recording of this net, making it available to all through YouTube. There's links to the YL OpNet Facebook group and the YL OpNet YouTube channel on both Catherine AC4YL and mine, AG4YL's QRZ page. You just click on it. It's a quick link, easy to do. You can also search either one of those for YL OpNet. I'd also like to thank ALARA for the use of this Echolink conference node, the North Fulton Amateur Radio League for their Do Drop In chat room, and all LinkedIn listening for your ongoing support of this net. This is Melanie, AG4YL, closing the YL OpNet, returning the ALARA conference node back to normal use. Thank you all. Everybody out there, you make this net. It's my privilege to be your net control for this evening, 33, and see you next week.
Hey, Melanie, I'm going to send you a QSL card, all right?
Thank you very much, Francisco. It would be my pleasure to have that up on my wall. And as soon as it gets them printed out, I will return the favor. Thank you for your support and for listening and for being out there for us and supporting us here. We do appreciate it. See you, 3AU, AG4YL.
Yes, ma'am, AG4YL, CU3AU. My pleasure. I'll be here again Thursday. Have a good night. Bye. Hey, Catherine, AC4YL. Also want to say hi. Hope you're doing fine, okay?
Well, good evening, Francisco. It's great to see you, and really appreciate that envelope you sent. The music was a lot of fun to listen to, and enjoyed getting your QSL card. So this is great. Maybe we'll actually get to work each other on HF sometime. But it's good to see you tonight, Francisco, and it's really great to see your comments too. So take care. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch up with you next week. 7388 Francisco, AC4YL.
AC4YL, CU3AU. Well, thank you very much there, Catherine. My pleasure. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I'm on QRJ.com, so if you feel like showing up on HF, just tell me when, what band, and I'll be here. Okay? Have a good night as well. Thanks. 7388, back to you. Cheers now.